2012 is with us. We know what has happened in the markets in 2011. It's not been a pretty picture, and there are various reasons why it should not be. But overall, for the Nigerian market for you, for 2012, what sort of picture do you expect?
Now, as it is in Nigeria, if we look at the trend we had in 2011, the all-share index and the market capitalization had all dipped well beyond the 20% margin. Now, what we're expecting is that in the year 2012, there's going to be a stabilization. And then with the policies that are being changed, with the amendments that are going to be introduced by the Securities and Exchange Commission, we believe there's going to be a positive outlook for in the year 2012.
What does positive outlook entail for you? Are we looking at gains here in double digits, or are we looking below double digits?
I think we're going to make it below the double digits because it's going to be more of a recovery period, considering that over the last 2 years we've had a double-digit dip in the all-share index and then the market capitalization.
Right. Now, in terms of the sectors themselves, perhaps if you can just give us insight into which sectors you expect will lead this recovery.
Now, basically, if we look at what we have, I believe the fast consumer moving goods are going to be a big plus for us there. But if we look at what they are doing, no matter what happens, people will still pick up those stocks. Now, looking at them even in the year 2011, with the negative dip that we have of more than 20%, they were relatively stable, and I believe that stronghold will still continue within the year 2012. Going beyond the fast-moving consumer goods, I actually believe the oil and gas sector will be relatively stable too, and they're going to have a positive outlook.
Right. Okay, so those two sectors. Now, in terms of your your top 10 for 2012, I just did a little analysis here, and you have got banks, and you have the oil companies that we've just talked about, as well as the fast-moving consumer goods sector. Let's get into the companies themselves. Let's talk about the winners that you have identified in those sectors. You have Unilever Nigeria PLC, you have Nestle Nigeria PLC, Nigerian breweries. You also have Unilever as well as Guinness in those, and 7-Up. Let's talk about the merits of those stocks, beginning perhaps with those that you reckon are the hottest.
Okay, now, I really like to look at the historical positions. This particular year, despite the dip, these stocks which I've selected had positive outlook. Looking at the prices from as of January till date, they've had a significant increase in fundamentals which they have. Well, it's not just a question of perception. Their performance has been very good, and I believe it will continue in the next year. Looking at this, people are going to take up positions on them, knowing fully that it's a question of fundamentals. Are those who are going to make long-term investments, not the short-term investors, not those who are going to just gamble, but those who are looking at long-term position.
We apologize for the intermittent breakup in transmission there, but let's see if we can keep this conversation going. So if you were to rank those companies that we've talked about within the fast-moving consumer goods sector, would you say Unilever is your stock pick?
Yes, I'll say Unilever is a good stock pick.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the banks. You have got First Nigeria PLC as well as GT Bank. Why those two, and why not the other bigger players? Like we know Axis is taking on Intercontinental, and they are becoming bigger.
Now, it's not just about being bigger. We're looking at where the companies are. Now, I specifically mentioned First Bank. The First Bank is trading at 9 naira, approximately 9 naira. We know what it is what. We know the strongholds. We know how they are good at it. And we believe that they are going to move stronger. At 9 naira, it is undervalued. It is underpriced. So for those who are looking at positive outlook, I am sure picking up a bank like the stock of a bank like First Bank means you're going to have a more than double-digit increase in the prices next year when the market upturns. Now, in terms of GT Bank equally, and the financials are relatively stable. They've had a good price appreciation, and not just there's a good perception about them in the market.
Right. Okay. So your top two bank stocks. Let's move now over to the oil sector, and you have you've got Mobil, and then you also have Total. Yeah. Why those two particular ones?
Now, they've been relatively stable. I'm looking at, just in case there's a twist in the markets next year, these ones are going to act as a good diversification for those who have invested.
Right.
They are relatively stable. The number of shares that they have in the market are relatively small in terms of the total outstanding shares. And that means the number of trades are, so to say, restricted.
Right.
And are in the hands of a very few people. So with that, it's not going to be, the prices are not going to depreciate significantly within the year.
Yeah. What about the risks, though, of the deregulation of the oil sector? We know the government has been talking about this for a while now. Surely there is that possibility that this could come through in 2012, and this would likely have an impact on those shares.
Now, there are two issues we are looking at within the oil and gas sector. First is the PIB, that's the Petroleum Industry Bill,
Yeah.
which have been on the burner for almost 3-4 years as we speak. I do not see the bill being passed in the year 2012, basically. Because if we look at what has been happening, there are various versions of the bill that are in circulation, as where today we do not even know which is going to be passed. I'm not even sure the House, that's the upper legislative and the lower legislative chambers, are ready to take a hit at it and then pass on the bill.
Sure.
Now, the other issue which is affecting the oil and gas sector is the issue of deregulation. If the regulation is fully introduced, I strongly believe that it's going to have a negative impact on the economy at the onset, because prices are going to skyrocket before they start stabilizing. I envisage that if it is passed on within the first quarter of the year, there's going to be a lot of strikes. There's going to be a lot of strikes in the country. People will react to it, those even positively and negatively. Ultimately, I believe that it's going to affect it significantly, because if they are allowed to import freely, it means that the prices can go up as they want it.
Yeah.
That is the operators themselves. So if it goes up significantly, it means that we're making more money for themselves.
Sure.
And obviously, it means that the prices will definitely go up.
So how much upside do you see for those two?
I'm looking at something in the amount of well more than 15–20%.
15 to 20%.
In terms of price appreciation. Yep.
Absolutely. Ambrose Okolo, Structured Finance and Advisory at Diamond Bank. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.